All right, hello, beautiful humans. Super excited to be able to share this with you. It has been almost a year since we've run anything online, which has been pretty wild. So excited to be able to share this with you guys this evening. We've got people from all over Australia, maybe even some international people joining us. People from Roma, Ballarat, Central Queensland, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Ipswich, Melbourne. Great. So let's get straight into it. All right, so the holographic method masterclass. This is kind of how it's going to roll. I'm just going to see if I can actually put this on presenter mode to make it even better. No, didn't go to presenter mode. Presenter view. Do you guys see all of my screen? Do you see my presenter view, or do you see just the slides? No, I can't see the chart. Oh well, guess we'll work it out. This is what happens when you haven't done anything on Zoom forever. I've even got it in my slides, actually. Hold on. So I'm going to talk really fast so that we can go through as much as I can in the time that we have. Yeah, Zoom did an update last week. Yeah. I'm going to be human. I'm going to fumble with tech. As I said, it's been a year since we've done anything online. Obviously, through COVID, we did everything online, but now we're back into, doing a combination of in-person and in rooms. So I'm going to be human as part of this. I'm going to swear. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fumble with tech. All of that shit's going to happen. So strap in. We're going to engage in the chat as part of this as well. This is going to be where you're going to be able to communicate with me. My intention is to be able to smash through the content as quickly as we can so that we have some time and space for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in throughout, but I probably won't get to them to the end. And we're going to have fun. I like to have fun when I do all of these things. As you might notice, I'm very unique. I have my spiritual hat going on, got all my shit in the background, got my Egypt fucking shit up there. So yeah, we're going to have fun. A little bit about me before we kick into it. I'm a human dad, dog dad, and partner with Dad Jokes. There may be a few dad jokes in here, we'll see. And what we're going to go through today is not this. This is what we're going to go through. We're going to go through the 3 friction points keeping you stuck in struggling to succeed, why most people get stuck on what we call struggle street, and much more. I have a ton of slides to be able to go through, way more than I need to, which is also why I'm okay to go wherever the energy goes with this. Already I'm well out of order on my slides. So I'd love to know in the chat, how many of you have seen me at one of our one-day events before, or how many, and then just say like one day in the chat. And if you've never seen me present before, then hit me up in the chat and say never, like Rebecca. 3 events, never. 1 day, 2 days, never. 1 day. Fleetwood retreat, never. All of them. Classic. All right, so we've got a mixed bag today, which is great. Going to be going through some new content as well. I love getting into some new content. If you've been to any of our events over the last probably 18 months, we've been hardcore into running in-person events. You will have seen me talking about holographics, and today we're going to be going into some content which, we've talked about it in little pockets, but never in this way. So if you've seen me a billion times before, then I guarantee that you'll get something new out of today, which is going to be a blast. So let's get into it then. So you're in the right place if you want to get more done in less time. If you want to 2x your financial flow, you want to unlock superhuman energy, you want to remove the handbrakes to your next level of success, and you want to call in soul-aligned clients. All the marketing points that we all love. One of the things that you'll recognize about how I work is I like to take the piss out of things, especially myself. So yeah, that'll happen. So the first thing we're going to get into today is the need to struggle to succeed is caused by 3 friction points. Out of interest, how many people here have recognized that they have some form of pattern where they need to be able to struggle to be able to create success? They need to be able to work hard to be able to create the results that they have in their life. Just let me know in the chat if that resonates with you. Yep, absolutely. Great. I'm in the right room then. So ultimately, this plays out in Australia more than many other countries because we have this ingraining energetic frequency of needing to struggle, needing to hustle, needing to be the Aussie battler. If we're not working hard, then we're not actually doing things to be able to create the results that we want. We have this this kind of pattern where we have this thought process of, if it's easy, it's not worth doing. And this creates this almost cultural level of struggle, which plays out in Australia more than many other countries. And, this comes from many things, but on a foundational level, why this stays in place for people, because it doesn't stay in place for everyone, is 3 things. And we're going to go into those 3 things today. So out of interest, how many of you would like to know what those 3 things are? Let me know in the chat with a yes. I'm just going to move the chair. Yes, 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 please. Great. Let's get it. Hey. All right. Bring up my slides here again. All right, so the 3 friction points. The need to struggle. 3 friction points. The first, before we get into this, we need to be able to look at this and understand that your current level of your relationship with each of these is going to give you your current level of results in life. So I'm going to give you these 3 friction points, and whatever your current level of results are, that's an indication of the level that you're at with this. Now, the reason why I need to be able to say this is because the amount of times where I talk to people and they tell me that they've done the work, or they've done this, or they know this, or they know that, and their life is still no different, well, then that shows me an indication where in many instances there's some mechanism of spiritual bypassing. And I'm going to talk about spiritual bypassing more later. But for now, we need to be able to tune in to be able to see what is your current relationship with these 3 friction points, because they're giving you the current level of results that you have in life right now. So the first one of these is what we call associated emotions. And this is really about your level of tolerance for being misunderstood. This is my family. This is me growing up. This is me when I'm 17 here. And the way that we kind of look at this, an associated emotion is this. When we do things like NLP, we're working on things like negative emotions in many instances. And it's very easy to be able to work through all these negative emotions: fear, guilt, shame, anger, all of those things. These are all the foundational things that we start to work through. But the reason why so many people get stuck is because when they've done all of that work, they get to the next level of work, which is what we call associated emotions, where we have a negative emotion and a positive emotion, and those 2 things are associated. So the way that we talk about this is we have the negative emotion, which is shame, and then the positive emotion, which is love. We're not going to let go of this shame if it's associated with love, because if we do, we will perceive that we'll lose the love. And if there is no love, then there's no hope in life. So we won't actually do that. So we create this mechanism of stuckness. So when we're looking at associated emotions, it's a positive emotion associated with a negative emotion. And more family photos of me. This is me as a kid. Negative emotions are associated with love that we're held on to because we fear we'll lose that love. So how this plays out is like this. We will unconsciously start to repeat patterns that seem absolutely like stupid, basically. We don't even recognize that we're doing them, but we end up following in these specific patterns, especially with our parents' patterns, to be able to continue this through these associated emotions. An example of this is my dad grew up on a farm. And on the farm, you've got literal feast and famine. You've got years where you make all this money, and then years where he would tell me that for 3 years straight, they had a hailstorm that would come in, and then they would have like nothing for those years. So it was literal feast and then famine. And my dad was telling me that when they were in that famine frame of reference, his father would actually go around and cut down all of these trees for wood so they wouldn't have to pay for wood because it was out in the country where it's freezing, out in Stanthorpe where I grew up. So he would do this thing. He's cutting down all of these trees to keep the family warm. And what would happen is just around the house, all the trees would just start to dissipate. It was all wooded in. And then over the years, there would just be sequentially less trees playing out. Now, this was what happened when my dad grew up. He left home when he was like 12 years old. So up until 12 years old, this is what happened for him. Now, fast forward 60 something years later, he does the same thing, meaning he cuts down all the trees around the house for the firewood because he won't go out and buy firewood. Even though he's got plenty of money, he still does the same pattern. He still does the same behavior based on what's been associated in with this certain thing that plays out of a behavior which is associated in with love. This is what we call, unconscious family loyalty. Unconscious family loyalty is when we start to actually repeat these patterns which are inherently playing out based on some behavior that seems almost absurd to do, and yet it still plays out. So how many of you have recognized at some point that, you on some level said that you would never become your parent, and then you do something in life and you're like, oh my God, I'm doing what my dad did. I'm doing what my mum did. How many of you have recognized at some point in your life that that's actually played out? Let me know in the chat so I can have a breather. Got some yeses. Yes, especially now as a parent. Yes. So inherently, this is actually quite normal, and it becomes even more normal the more work that we start to do on ourselves. When we start to do all of that foundational work on ourselves, of working through all the negative emotions, of doing all of our inner child healing and doing all of these things, it creates this solid foundation for us to then, grow beyond that. And, I recognize for me, I was at this event in Bali, and we do this sharing exercise, and they're like, all right, cool. Who wants to share about what you journeyed through the breath work that we just did? And, you're going to stand up at the front of the room and share. So I stand up, do my thing, and I'm sharing about what I journey as part of it. And I stand up and then I do my share, all good. And I'm about to sit back down. And then the facilitator says, is there anything else we can support you with today? Is there anything else that you need today? And I didn't recognize it until that morning, but that morning was 8 years to the day that my mum died. And I I said that. I said I would love some support with that. I'd love some support with, you know, with the things that were coming up around that. And at the same time, in my mind, I was thinking, you know, I've done so much work on this every single year. I'm journeying this. I've done this fucking inner child healing. I've grieved this. I've written the letters. I've sent them the letters. I've done all the things to be able to do all the healing on this. But it still seems to be coming up. And I had this internal thing playing out with the other piece of me, you know, not wanting to take over the entire event, not wanting to be the center of attention and do all of those things. It's just like, you know, it's day 2 of this retreat. I don't want to take up all the space of everything in the retreat. I can do all my stuff, you know, in my own time. And for me, it was really this pivotal point in terms of how I started to relate to my own work. I recognized that although I had done a lot of work on myself, I was still very much just, you know, ticking the box with it all. It was more important for me to be seen to be doing the work than actually integrating the work that I was doing. And that was reflected back in my resistance to you know, wanting to actually go there and actually like go to the next level with it. And for me, everything shifted when I started to recognize, okay, cool, you know, it's not that I have to, or I need to, you know, heal this on an even deeper level. It's really an opportunity for me to create a deeper connection with myself. And you know, what this allowed me to do was it allowed me to actually start to create massive shifts in terms of how I related to my inner work. It was something that was to be embraced and looked forward to rather than a mechanism just to shame myself. And you know, the work that we do in our tribe or our family unit is often the work that just keeps going and going and going. Which is great because it creates a deeper level of connection to ourselves again and again and again and again. And when we can bring that frame of reference to it, it becomes ultimately much more empowering than, you know, when we have to do it. So I'm just going to check to see if this is going to work as well. This is what one of our clients, Kai, also said about what he recognized about the unconscious family loyalty. Can you guys hear this okay? Is the sound coming through? Yes? Great. He's just going to share what he journeyed with his relationship with his dad that he recognized when he went through holographics. I'm just going to play this.
The first program. On the way to the event, this is my fucking mindset, right? Because I'm still in so much perpetual fear. I'm walking to the event and I'm like, if this is a scam, I'm going to cancel my Amex, I'm going to run away, and I'm going to block it. Because I've been burnt. I've spent tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of on coaches. I know all of the best marketing systems and the sales systems on planet Earth. But like I said, the biggest thing that I was missing was myself. So I go into this fucking event and we go through the holographic method and we did it on my dad. And we did it specifically on me playing out the archetype of being avoidant when things get tough. See, at the time, every single time I hit a wall, every single time I hit resistance, I would fully just live my life in avoidance. Just completely reject all responsibility. At the time, I had almost 200 clients. And I dissociated from them so much that I built a business where I wasn't even fully involved. I had 11 team members doing everything for me, and I thought that's what I wanted. But it wasn't. It was just because I was fucking afraid, right? And then go through the process, we work on my dad, we do this avoidance, and I started to understand why the fuck I was so avoidant my whole life. why I lusted for women, why I was always in this place of perpetual fear, feeling like I needed to make all of this money in order to be happy, or I needed to always travel in order to be happy, or I needed to XYZ in order to be happy. And then it clicked. I don't know what question it was. I think it was like 4 or 5, where I saw my father for the first time. And I realized that every single time I was being avoidant in my life, I was being dissociated in my life, I was playing out this character of being the little boy that always wanted to be seen by his father.
So this is what Kai had to say after going through holographics. He recognized that, he was in unconscious rapport with his dad being avoidant. He had a lot of experiences where this was playing out in his relationships, in his family, in his business. And this is typically what plays out for the majority of people that we talk to. They have this experience where they recognize that there's just some little thing which is keeping them in this perpetual looping process. Now, obviously, this is a masterclass, and at any point throughout this masterclass, if you feel called to be able to work with us further, then the only way that you can do that is to be able to book in for a call with us. So if you want to work with us further, I'm going to be dropping in a link to the chat in the chat here. If you want to work with us further, you can book in an application call with us. It's the only thing that you can do. You can't buy anything on this call. And I would love for you to join us in one of our holographic events where we actually go through the full process. I know that some of you on the call are already joining us, and some of you have already joined us in the past. So if you feel the call to be able to work with us further, that's the way to be able to do it. I'll be giving you that invitation as we start to work through. So, associated emotions. The key point that most people will miss with what Kai was also saying is he finally understood what was playing out. This is a key component that plays out for people. The underlying wound of associated emotions is this misunderstanding, and it's one of the primary wounds that you'll see of coaches. And if we get time to be able to talk more about that, then we'll talk more about that at the end. So this is the first friction point that keeps us needing to struggle to succeed. When we can actually release this, it releases a lot of the handbrake to be able to do it. The second pillar that we look at with this is what we call a dysregulated nervous system, which is really all about your level of 2 things. Number 1, your access to the felt sense, which we'll explain in a second. And number 2, the level of powerlessness that you experience. So the concept that we talk about with this is we don't age, we collect ages. What will happen is each person is going to live in what we call a functional freeze response, where they respond from the age where the freeze occurred. So as an example, if I am over here and I've got my very first spiritual hat over here, I've got challenge on my shirt. I love a good challenge, which is hilarious why I've got that on my shirt. If I break my leg at that age, then I have a response which has me get into a freeze response, which means that I respond from that age. It's why, if you get into an argument with your partner, you recognize, I feel like I'm being a 5-year-old having a tantrum right now. Why? Because what happens is when we have an experience which is undigested in our nervous system, then we actually respond from that age. I'm going to say that again. When we have an experience which is undigested in our nervous system, then we respond from the age that occurred. It's why in many instances, people run their business from, a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old in many instances, which is why they consistently get stuck. It's also why we use that metaphor. We use that metaphor when we're talking about when people are growing their business. We talk about the maturity of their business because it's about the maturity of, what's playing out for them and the parts that are going on for them. So when we look at this, we collect ages. We collect ages, meaning there are all of these different parts of us which are at specific ages. They're stuck at a certain age. They're stuck as the 7-year-old, responding from the 7-year-old. So when your partner raises their voice or something, then you go back to the 7-year-old, and then you can only come from an emotionally charged state, which is this functional freeze state, which keeps us stuck in that pattern. Now, we can intellectualize this as much as we like. And, if we intellectualize it, we'll get a certain sense of it. But the real shift occurs when we can actually access the felt sense behind it all. How many people have heard the concept of felt sense before? Just let me know in the chat. If it's a yes, say yes. If it's a no, then say no. Just so I can gauge where we're at. Got a few no's, so we'll go through it a little bit. I'm sure I've got the book here, actually. This is what happens this is what I miss about doing trainings from home. I've got my bookshelf, so I can normally find all of the books that I'm talking about. Felt sense is a term which was coined by Eugene Grelin. He was the very first person to be able to coin that term, and he was best known for a method called focusing. And this is where we can actually get into connection with the felt sense of what is actually going on for us. It's actually our ability to be able to connect in with the sensations which are playing out in our system, which are giving us this feedback loop. And let's, because so many of you haven't experienced that before, we're gonna do it a little bit now. So I'm gonna get you to close your eyes for a moment. And I'm just going to get you to just wherever your hands are, just closing your eyes and just connecting in with your left hand pinky finger without moving it, just connecting and bringing your awareness to it. And then connecting in with your left hand ring finger, and then your left hand middle finger, and then your left hand pointer finger, and then your left hand thumb. And then just connecting in and becoming aware of your entire left hand now. And then just opening your eyes. So on a foundational level, when we're looking at the felt sense, our body is giving us feedback all the time. How many of you recognize right now what it feels like to have a neck? Well, you probably were just busy living your entire life, doing your thing, until you remember that you've got a neck, and your awareness then goes back to it. Now, as soon as I bring awareness to your neck, then you might notice that there's some tension in your neck. Your shoulders might be tense. They might relax a little bit more. This felt sense is really this feedback loop for us to be able to communicate with the innate wisdom of our body. Our body is this thing which actually carries us throughout our entire life, and yet the majority of people live their entire life in this shaming mechanism of how their body looks, how it feels. They're in this argument of what's playing out to be able to create this perpetual shame cycle based on what their body is, and yet it is the thing that carries them through their entire life. And very, very, very few people slow down enough to be able to connect in with that felt sense of what their body is telling them. Overrun by our mind, it's overrun by our actions, overrun by our disassociation mechanisms to be able to create this busyness or productiveness that keeps us ultimately stuck. I'm already going well off the slides, but tangents are always where the juice is. One of the things that I said in the marketing for this was, how to go from productive to prosperous. Most people live their entire life being productive. They're very, very, very busy getting shit done, but they don't actually create the results that they want. The majority of people are creating action as a disconnection mechanism. They're creating action as a disconnection and a disassociation mechanism, so they don't have to feel what their body is communicating to them. The more that we can start to, drop back, connect in with our felt sense, connect in with what's actually playing out in our system, the more that we actually move in a direction which is going to be absolutely congruent for us. Because what most people do is they just go hard at it. They don't look up, head down, tail up, which is what creates more of this struggle cycle that we talk about. It becomes this unending action-reaction cycle. You act and then you react, you act and then you react. But then you don't actually take the capacity to be able to tune into the direction that you're going, to be able to increase the efficiency, to be able to increase the capacity, to be able to move forward at the fastest rate. Making sense so far, fam? What are we getting out of this so far? Just drop some words in the chat so I can have a drink. This is great. Great to hear. Connecting with your inner you is key. Yep. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Gio. So I'm in Mind Valley, and Miroslav just joined us in the waiting room. He's here. This is Miroslav over here. And I'm speaking at Mind Valley in Estonia, and I'm just over here in the background. There was like this little seated area. And I'm doing what I do, which is I normally just stand in a hallway and people will come and talk to me. I'm more introverted than extroverted, so I'll wait for people to come to me. So I stand in the hallway and this person comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, I loved your session. It was amazing. Can I just ask you one question about it?" Because I was talking about holographics over there. And she asked me the question. She's like, "Okay, so what happens when, what happens when you work with, people on healing their not feeling good enough, and then that comes up for you?" I was like, "That's a great question." And when I was talking to her, I could just feel how dysregulated her nervous system was. I could just feel how anxious she was. She wasn't like shaking like this, but you could just feel this low level buzz in her nervous system, which was playing out. It was like this underlying emotion which was yearning to be expressed. So I was talking to her, and the entire time I was just just regulating my breath, tuning into what was playing out for her. And I asked her a few questions. I was like, "Well, what is this about a client? Is this about you? What's going on?" And she said, "Oh, it's me. I'm journeying these things. I've worked with 3,000 people as a hypnotherapist, and I work with them on healing themselves, feeling not good enough." And I was like, "Okay, cool, great, that makes sense." And she's like, "And then I recognize that I'm about to speak into this event in Ibiza in a few weeks, and I recognize that this feeling of not good enough is coming up." And I was like, okay, cool. That feels big for you. I get that. I can definitely feel the emotion in it and the the level of growth of stepping into, that new level. So I asked her, are you okay for me to, give you a little bit of support on that? And I could feel her nervous system was already quite, you know, up there, redlining a little bit. And she's like, what, like in the hallway in a conference? And I couldn't help but laughing. I'm like, yeah, like I've facilitated the holographic process while driving cars, in barbershops, you know, by the going along the Nile in Egypt, in airports, like, the where you're at is okay for me, and I support people at all places. So if you're okay to go there, then we can go there. And we been put there for a few of those. Yes, Miroslav loves to be able to go there anyway. Anyway, um, so I started to have this deeper conversation with her. I was just starting to journey down underneath it all because, what's happening in many instances is we have our body giving us so much feedback, so much information that is coming through our body that if we can tune into it, it's going to allow us to be able to create that deeper sense of connection to ourselves, to be able to, bring forth our essence. Now, I talk about the thing that you're most paid for is you in your essence. If you can bring forth your essence to a new level, then people are going to pay you to a new level. So I'm having this conversation with her, and the entire time I'm not really asking her that much. All that I'm really doing is I'm just allowing her just to be able to connect back into her nervous system, to be able to connect back into the felt sense underneath it all. Because what had happened for her is she'd had this experience where her tools had only gotten her so far. And this is what I see play out for many, many people. Your tools will only get you so far. Pretty sure everyone got a slide about this. When your tools become rules, you begin to spiritually bypass. And what had happened for this person was they used hypnotherapy on everything. It's like hypno, 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 hypno. And she'd changed thousands of lives. But as soon as that becomes a rule and the only tool that you go to, then it forces you to spiritually bypass. If you only use NLP, if you only use breathwork, if you only use all of these things, then what that does is it means that whatever you're using, it becomes a rule, so it begins to rule you. And this is what plays out for people when they've got that dysregulated nervous system. So in having that conversation with that lady in Estonia, as we just started to journey deeper and deeper and deeper into connecting into her nervous system, connecting into what was underneath it all, what that allowed her to do was that allowed her to actually be happy and confident to actually go and do that speaking gig in Ibiza. And I sent her a message the other day to be able to check in how she went, and she's like, yeah, it was amazing. I definitely felt nerves, stepping onto stage, and I definitely felt more confident than I ever have on stage at the same time. And this all comes back to, our ability to be able to find all of the areas where we've given our power away, which is recognizing this level of powerlessness, and create a new level of access to the felt sense. What have we picked up from this section on nervous system? Drop in the chat what you've recognized or noticed or learned before we move on to the next friction point. And as you're doing that, it's important to be able to give your nervous system rest in between. If I'm just giving you content the entire time, that's going to be great. but it's probably going to be overwhelming. So in me asking this question, it's really just giving you space to integrate into your nervous system for it to land more. Now, if my entire job was to, convert as many of you as possible, then, giving you space to integrate probably isn't the best idea. And if you're here for the long haul, then you know that people are going to work with you over a period of time, and you can, have the patience to be able to wait for them. The Geo says nervous system talks, got to learn to listen to align to your nervous system, Nicholas says. Felt sense enables us to connect with our innate sense of the body. Our body is giving us feedback all the time, 100%. Stop and listen, 100%. So we've been through the first two. Oh, I got to do my thing. Sorry. This is my opportunity. As I said earlier, if you want to work with us further, then the only way that you can do that is to be able to book in a call. I'm going to ask you many times throughout this call, because I'm very much committed to serving people who are ready to be able to level up. Just going to let people drop in from the waiting room. So I'd love to invite you to join us in one of our holographic events that we have coming up. And the only way that you can do that is by booking in a call. I also forgot to mention that the very first person who books in for a call, it also gets a extra bonus, which I'm going to tell you when that person books in. Some might have already booked in, but I haven't actually looked, so I guess we won't know till the end. So we've been through friction point 1 and friction point 2. Friction point 3 is what we call polar paradigms. This is about your level and ability to understand thanks, Estelle. Just check your emails and you'll have the link and stuff in there. Polar paradigms. So your ability to be able to understand and see. The key point with this is you don't see reality. And there are many, many, many degrees at which you don't see reality. Bo Lotto says 93% of what you see is memory. So what this really means is right now, you don't actually see me. You see my hands moving, you hear my voice shifting, but you don't actually see reality. You're filtering all of those things right now. You're polarizing all of those things. So you don't actually see reality. All that you do is you see your polarizations, you see your patterns. To highlight how much this plays out, what actually happens is you have your past, and your past is copied, and then it is pasted into your future. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. But only at a 93% success rate. Only 93% success rate. So you're probably okay. You only see the things that change, but also then we have the in Daniel Kahneman's Nobel Prize winning book, he talks about change blindness. Even the things that are changing, we often diminish, discount, and delete from our mind. So when you see reality, you don't actually see it. All that you see is the stories that you've already created in your mind to be able to perpetuate that playing out again. And every single time someone comes to me and like goes through the holographic method, they're like, oh, I did the work on my parents. And then they're like, oh yeah, I get them, I understand them. And then every single time afterwards, the same feedback occurs. They're like, oh my God, now I truly get them. Because you don't get the people in your life. And the degree that you don't get the people in your life is evident in your success in life. Even if you've done all the work on yourself. You don't get your partner. You don't get your kids. You don't get your prospects. You don't get your peers. You don't get your clients. You don't get your parents. All that you get is the copy and paste from the past into the future. And this is what creates our paradigm. This is why we call it a polar paradigm. Polar paradigm. And, you know, when we shift this, we're really shifting how you see your reality. We can shift how you see your reality. You know, it's personal development 101 occurs, which is Wayne Dwyer's most famous quote, which is, you know, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at begin to change. So the more that we can shift how you see things, the more that your life shifts. And here's an example of that with Tegan.
And Cody will talk about, oh yeah, shift paradigm, something will change in your life. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll sell my business and talking to people. No one wanted to touch my business. After this process, I found a broker, and within 6 weeks, my business was sold. Weird shit happens when we shift paradigms. I'm not even kidding. Day 1 of the 6-day event, the visionary event, I got confirmation that my TEDx was accepted. Fucking wild. So when we get out of our own way and allow ourselves to fully feel the grace, like I did, I felt so much more of the world awaken. This process, this opportunity to go beyond this current reality is profound. Can I share one more thing?
Yep.
Paradigm shift, business. Oh yeah. What else starts the paradigm shift? Relationships. I had after the November one, I had a moment of pure grace in being seen again in relationship. Family. Oh my God, I literally just talked to my mum, who I used to feel really antsy about. I've done the process, I think, 9 times now with my mum, and I used to not want to talk to her and avoid her. I literally went outside before so I could speak to her and my 99-year-old grandma. Oh, it was so cute. And a dog. Your life can completely evolve. My life has completely shifted and changed to who I was.
So that was what Tegan's experience was. So if, again, if you feel like this is something that you want to journey to, then I'd love for you to join us. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. It looks like we have a winner already from someone who's booked in as well. So congratulations to Nicholas. And we will get back into the content. If you know or feel like this could be something to be able to support you in your next level, I would love for you to join us and have a conversation around that. We have some epic events coming up that would be great for you to join us. Let's get back into the content. So, what is this holographics thing? This holographics thing, what the F is it? Holographics, holos meaning whole, Greek holos meaning whole. graphics, meaning visual images produced, going into vivid detail. The essence of it is this: we really want to have the whole image. We want to be able to see the whole image of something. What plays out for most people is when they only see one side of things, they often try and flip it over to be able to reframe things, but they don't actually see the whole picture. They don't actually see everything that is going on. And until you see everything that is going on, then all that you're going to do is perpetuate your polarizations and this need to struggle, because what you're only ever doing is consistently forcing things. You know, my entire first book was on how to be able to create more flow, how to be able to go from forcing to flowing, how to be able to go from that shift of struggling to ease in life. We want to go from the struggle street to easy street. And, you know, with the holographic method, this is the fastest, most efficient and powerful way that I've found to be able to do this. So the whole image, the metaphor that we play out with holographics is anything holographic refers in some way to a hologram, which is a three-dimensional projected image of something or someone. Three-dimensional projected image of something or someone. So in essence, we're all energy. We're all holographic in nature. A great book on this, which is not readily available anymore, is what we call the holographic paradigm. And because holographics has been around for a long, long time, it was actually, there was this time in the 1970s where both David Bohm, who's a world-renowned physicist, who was a student of Albert Einstein, and Carl Pribram, one of the founders of he was one of the first 300 board certified neurosurgeons in the world. And he wrote books like this, which is just like a black book, but it's about the hippocampus. And he was one of the people who actually founded a lot of the brain science around the world. And both of these people were talking about this metaphor of a holographic reality at the same time in different parts of the world. David Bohm, world-renowned physicist, he talks about the implicit order. The implicit order is this recognition that there is a divine order at play. There's this divine order. And, you know, I consistently say to every single person, what we're really doing is we recognize where we can actually see the divine order, where we perceive that there was disorder. When we can actually start to see that, we see what's playing out. We go beyond our polarizations. We go beyond the things which are actually keeping us bound to our current level. So that's a bit of a tangent there. Maybe we'll take a breath together. You want to take a breath together? We can do it spiritually like this. So take a breath in, breathe in through your nose, and hold at the top. And then because you're on mute, make a loud exhale as you breathe out. That's how we get extra spiritual. We're going to do 2 more of those, breathing in through your nose. Hold at the top, feel the felt sense of that, and exhale. 1 more, make sure you exhale because it tones your vagus nerve to be able to release your nervous system even more. Last one. Hold and sigh with the exhale. All right. There is only ever order. Any perceived disorders are representations of levels of order that are unseen to you. The most common thing that I say to people when people come to our events is, that's predictable. Because what happens is as soon as you start to see all of the levels of order which are playing out for people, you see exactly why something is playing out for people. You see exactly why they have the job that they had. Doing a series on Instagram at the moment. It's like, you know, who's the wounds that plays out of sales. Here's the wound that plays out of speakers, of coaches, of people in the justice department. Like as soon as you know what someone's job is, you know all of the wounds that have created that so that they actually go and get that job. If you're a nurse, then you have this perceived lack of care in your childhood. All of these things inherently play out based on the wounds that you have to create the job that you have. And yet we think, you know, it's this thing that we've chosen. Very rarely is it the case. So in the holographic method, we actually go through a process to be able to recognize that divine order. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to be able to create this experience of what we call a moment of grace. And, a moment of grace is this moment where we have tears streaming down our face when we're in a wordless state, because we see that perfection, wholeness, and completeness of something that we saw and perceived was broken. And this moment of grace plays out in pockets in life. The example that I love to share the most is this. We've got Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal here. They have this moment when they're retiring and they just reach over, tears in their eyes, and have this moment of grace and recognize who the other person was for them. They recognize that the person sitting beside them did more for them than any other coach ever could have. They battled for hours and hours, sometimes 5 or 6 hours at a time, for years and years and years and over a decade. And in this moment, they recognize what the other person did for them. And they have this moment of grace. And they have that experience where they have tears streaming down their face in this wordless state. And this is, entirely different to appreciation. Appreciation is intellectual. Grace is wordless. And it is actually the energetic frequency of creation. So it is the most powerful energy to be in to be able to create anything in life. If you want to create a relationship, then you get into an experience of grace. You want to create money, then you create access to that experience of grace. You want to create connection back to your family, then you create access to that connection in grace. And this is what we do when we take people through the holographic method, however long it takes. I sometimes go through periods of doing it one-on-one, but most of it's in events. I had a one-on-one on Monday night. And how it works is we go until you get that moment of grace. You just keep going and going and going and going and going and going until you get it. And on Monday night, it finished at, it was very spiritual. It was at 1:11 a.m. Because we just keep going until you're done. And when you have that moment where you recognize that all of the things that you perceived were playing out were only lopsided or polarized. And there was only ever a mechanism of wholeness all the way through it all. The moment that most yearn for. The moment that gives deeper levels of meaning to every part of life. You've probably had experiences, already in your life where you recognize that it's like the Matrix. You have the option to be able to take the red pill or blue pill, and then you can't actually go back afterwards. Same thing happens. Same thing happens when you actually start to recognize that all of the things that were playing out underneath it all were all, divinely set up. So again, open it up. I'm going to invite you to be able to feel the call to be able to do this work with us. I would love to have you join us. I'm going to drop a link in the chat again, because every single time when people go through this work, it creates such shifts in their life, shifts their relationships, shifts their family, shifts their business, shifts how they actually see themselves. Oh, I forget about this. The person that you see the least is yourself. Getting some knowing, awkward nods there. The person that you see the least is yourself. You don't actually see yourself. All that you do is you see the things that you shame yourself, all the things that you should be, that you're guilting yourself where you're not. You don't see yourself. And that's when the real work starts to begin. When you start to truly see you. Because whatever level that you see yourself right now, whatever level of worth that you see in yourself, that's only scratching the surface. It becomes terrifying to actually see yourself, to see the value that you have in the world, to see the worth that you have in the world, to see that all of the stories that you told yourself around why you couldn't or how you couldn't or why you shouldn't are only stories. And this is where the disclaimer comes in for when people work with us. All that stuff starts to fade away. So when you step into it, you got to understand exactly what you're stepping into. All the stories that you've used to be able to justify staying small, being a victim, all of those things just start to disappear. Because when you see yourself and what you're actually here for, you no longer need to struggle. Your life becomes this expression of inspiration. When to inspire means to breathe life into something. When you breathe life into yourself, then that creates this perpetuation of the energy, which actually just permeates through out into the world. Most people are looking for motivation. They're looking for this external thing to be able to then drive them. And we can actually come from that place of inspiration, we just become this one direction, focus, driven. And this comes when we actually start to see ourselves. We actually start to see reality for what it is, not the polarizations of all the patterns where we've copied and pasted all of these things from the past, from our childhood, from our imprint stage, which is us just playing out our patterns, or worse, our parents' patterns. Because then we don't actually live our life. But, we won't go too deep into that. We might, push a few too many buttons for a 75-minute masterclass. I'm gonna skip some of the. If you've gotten value from what we've been through today, and you want to learn more about us, but you don't want to book in for a call, just let me know in the chat as well, and I can make sure that we can send you a YouTube playlist with a lot of videos on this. Tonight we've been through some concepts that we haven't been through so much before in there, because I don't want to just go through stuff that people can just get in videos and things like that as well. So if you'd like the playlist, just let me know in the chat and I can make sure it gets sent out to you. Yeah, it's just the easiest way to do it, because then I can continue to get more new content. Like there's, all of these things that we don't have time to be able to go through today. All of this, that's, you can get access to that in videos. So this is ultimately what it's all about. your essence. The more that you can bring forth your essence, the more powerful you will be. The more that you're actually going to create the things that you actually want in your life, the things that you deserve in your life. Because the degree that you're in your essence is equal to the degree that you're in easy street in life. I'm not going to go through the easy street versus struggle street too much. The core component with this is current slide here. Your essence. Your essence is the thing that you're most paid for. When you're in your essence, you get deeper fulfillment. You get more money. You get less time to be able to, less time doing things, so more time to actually yourself. So you actually create the things that you're yearning for. Ken Wilber talks about 3 different kinds of work that we need to do. The reason why so many people get stuck is they only do one kind of work. We need to be able to do growing up work. We talked about that in terms of our felt sense. See what happens when I breathe and it comes through? We have our cleaning up work, which is taking us from scarcity to success. And we have our waking up work, which is taking us from productive to prosperous. If we're missing our growing up work, then we have a dysregulated nervous system. If we're missing the associated emotion work, then we're not doing the cleaning up work. And we're not actually shifting from scarcity to success. If we're not working on polar paradigms, then we're missing that waking up work. So we need to be able to have this integrative approach. We can have a simple approach to what we're doing to be able to work on individual things when we start our work, but the more advanced that we become, the more that we need to be able to have an integrated approach as we start to work through it. I'm just going to make sure I actually save the chat so that I can make sure. Actually, I'll just send it to everyone who's here live. That's okay. Do that before I forget, just to make sure I can get everyone sent that. This is me and my tech thing. Right. When we have this integrated approach, when we do our growing up work, our cleaning up work, and our waking up work, then this creates this integrated approach. The reason why so many people get stuck is because they do one kind of work. They go and do NLP and they're like, right, well, I'm going to go do this, cleaning up stuff. And I just go and do that. And I do all that for the next 12 years. And then they actually get stuck at a certain level. They get all of these results to start off with because they hadn't utilized that before, but then they don't have an integrated approach to be able to move through all of those things. And, if we had more time together, then I'd go into all of the wounds that actually play out for each of those different types of growth that we actually need to be able to journey, to be able to level up, to be able to create a deeper access to our essence, because that's the thing that we get paid most for. What have we, what have been our biggest takeaways from what we've been through so far? Let's drop those in the chat. Well, we're coming towards the end. I might, run over a little bit, because that's what I do. I'd love to hear what your takeaways are. And as we get into those, tools you have will only get you so far, 100%. While you're writing those in the chat, I'm just going to share some quick words on what Nat says to have about working with us. If you don't know Nat, probably should know her. She's good for a laugh, creating waves in the world. She, started working with us doing 30, 40K months, and now she's just done $2.2 million in sales.
The thing that you will learn to know is that Cody sees the vision. He sees the intuitive weaves and flows of the universe bigger than you can see. Now I'm a fucking cycle. Channel most of my shit, okay? And so I think I know a fucking thing or two. And then Cody drops a little Cody drawing. of Cody Wasker. And it blows my mind. And so something as little as me saying, I really want a fucking Lamborghini. You know, who here's seen me on social media? Okay, who knows that I fucking froth Lamborghinis and I want a Lamborghini? Okay, for those of you who don't know, I want a Lamborghini. And it was Cody who literally fostered that and nurtured that. He isn't scared of my bigness. In fact, he fucking lets me run loose and he's like, nah, keep going. I've never had a mentor be crazier than me. Meet me in the depths of absolute darkness. Calls me out on my shit. Because I'm just going to be fucking... Is it okay if I get really transparent? Great. A lot of people suck my ass at the moment. Okay, I walk into rooms, everyone's like, no, right? And the truth is, I have built this awesome brand. And a lot of what I'm doing and a lot of what I have done, I couldn't have done without his help.
So that's Nat. She's kicking goals out there in the world. She's a testament to the work. She has changed the paradigm. She's done the work on the unconscious family loyalties, and she's created the shifts in her nervous system. She's created all of those shifts, and ultimately, you know, you can too. And I'd love to, you know, this is going to be probably our final one before I open up to Q&A. I'd love for you to join us. I'd love for you to join us in one of our events. We actually go deep into this. We go into how it actually plays out. We have a lot of fun when we do it. It gets pretty wild, as you can see with Nat. Some of you are already joining us. We're looking forward to that. And I just have that deep reverence for people who continue to step into the work, you know, especially even after they've had the experiences that they've had in their lives with the coaching industry, whatever's gone on for them. It's amazing to be able to allow people to be able to see themselves, often for the first time. And it's such a blessing for people to allow me to be able to support them in that. So if you feel that call to be able to journey with us, then I'd love to chat further. Reverence is such a great word, isn't it? And there are many events. That's why I would have a chat. We've got many events. We've got our events booked up all until the end of next year. So there are many dates based on where people are at and what's going to best support them. That's why we just, you know, have people book in for a call to be able to see which is going to be the best event for them that works in with their time frame. So let's start to kind of wrap it up there. We're going to open it up. If anyone has any, I think we could probably get 2 or 3 questions in. I think what we'll do is we'll get everyone sent out the playlist to be able to go through more of the stuff that we didn't have time to be able to go through as well, just so that you can go and binge on that. Obviously, you know, but for context, it's like normally 3 to 12 hours to take someone through the process. So it's very difficult to go that level of depth when we've got 75 minutes together. So yeah, let's anyone have any quick questions that I would like answered on any of this? Unpin myself so I can see everyone properly. What to expect for the 3-day events? What to expect? What to expect for the 3-day events? Lots of games. It's very immersive rather than intellectual, meaning we want to give you an embodied experience of all of the things, because one of the core things with your nervous system, which kind of leads to the next question, is you want to apply the right nervous system response to the task that you're doing. Most people are like, right, well, I need to be in a parasympathetic calm state. It's like, well, it depends. There's a time and a place to be in a sympathetic state in certain activities in life, and you'll actually make more money in a state which is a hybrid of sympathetic and parasympathetic, so that we can actually start to allow you to be able to create, but in a calm, quick, creative way. So there's lots of games, there's lots of things that brings up all of your shit, because that's what we want, so that we can integrate it, so we can actually start to create those shifts for you. So what to expect as well is on day 2 is when we go through the process, and we basically just go until you're done. Sometimes that means you finish at 8 p.m. Some people finish at 8, some people finish at 9, some people finish at 10, some people finish at 11, some people finish at 12, some people finish at 1. We keep going until you're done. My commitment is, if you come to the event, I keep going until you're done. Jackie will support and be there too. And sometimes I just send her home because people are just going slowly. So the latest that we've gone is 3 a.m. We're committed to getting you that moment of grace. So keep going and going and going until you're done. And then on Sunday, it's much more fun because you've had the moment of grace, and it's all about reintegrating that and creating that and taking that out into the world. So Yana says, how would you shift someone's nervous system? Well, it depends if you need to shift their nervous system. Number one, when we actually do this in the 3-day event, you've got to learn to be able to recognize what nervous system state that you're in. So we need to understand all of the distinctions between the nervous system states. Most people understand a big distinction between like fight and flight. That's pretty obvious. But all of the subtle nuances between that, what are the thoughts that happen? What is our breathing patterns that happen? What are the distinctions between that, so that we can start to recognize the nervous system state that someone's in before they open their mouth or before they actually do anything. Then also matching up the nervous system to the task that you're doing, because then you can accelerate your growth in that thing that you're doing, because you're applying what is the best nervous system for that task. So in terms of shifting someone's nervous system, it's going to be coming back to number one, recognizing the nervous system that we're in, and then determining if that's going to be the thing that's going to create shifts for it. So Miroslav says, as someone that's worked with Cody, I think some of these questions are best taken to a call with him, as the work is so much more potent speaking directly with him. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to be able to give you more context-specific answers with this. Some of these are going to be, great things to learn. And if you want it 100% specific to you, then having a conversation is going to be the best next step to be able to see if I can support you. And if I can't, then I'm happy to tell you that and say, tell you where is the best place you can get support. We work with specific people in a specific point in their journey. And if they're not at that point, then I have many, many contacts of where is going to be a better place for them to go to get what they need. So I'm okay to be able to refer people through if that's going to be the thing that's most of service to them. Will a replay be available for tonight? Yes, it will be ready. I think it goes out at 9. So just over an hour away, it will go out. So you'll be able to, share it around. If you just, if you're going to share it with people, just send them the registration link, because it will automatically be sent to them that way. And then they also get all of the videos, so that you don't have to manually send them all of the playlist and stuff like that. That's automatically just going to get sent to them. So to make it easier for you and everyone. Just send them the registration link and then they'll get the replay and everything straight afterwards. Cool. Well, again, it's been absolutely amazing to have you join us. I would love to continue the journey with each of you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat one more time. I would love to have you join us. I know some of you are already joining us, and I'm excited to have you with us. And if you want more information, we'll make sure that you get sent the playlist after this. If you haven't checked out the guide on this as well, just reply to one of our emails and we'll make sure that we can send you the guide as well. It's a 17-page guide going into all of this as part of it. Cool. Thanks, fam. Until next time.